Time.
We will now call to order the June 9th, 2025 Board of Education regular meeting. Thank you for attending the regular meeting of the board. I would like to remind you that school board meetings in Nebraska are meetings held in public, not public meetings. During the public comment section, the public may address the board on agenda items and other miscellaneous topics. We will now move on to our roll call, and I would first entertain a motion to excuse Cindy O'Connor from tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion to excuse Cindy O'Connor.
Second.
Do we need a roll call vote on that?
Yes.
Yes. Roll call.
Joanne Lund-Green. Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor. Skip Altick.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
All right. Now for our roll call of the board, please, Sheila.
Emily Garrick.
Present.
Cindy O'Connor. Skip Altick.
Present.
Angela Blazy.
Present.
Justin Thompson.
Present.
Joanne Lund-Green.
Present.
All right. Our mission statement, North Platte Public Schools is a destination school district and community that embraces innovative opportunities and distinguished programs to create highly competitive advantages for all students, instilling the canteen spirit in an evolving world. The canteen spirit embodies generosity, selflessness, and unwavering support through service, pride, collaboration, and grit. On to our posting of the Open Meetings Act. The Nebraska Open Meetings Act legislates the methods by which public meetings are conducted. Information pertaining to this act is with Sheila this evening because it has been recently updated. So if you would like some reading material, that's where you'll find it. All right, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the publication of the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
I'll make a motion to approve the publication of the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
Second.
Notices of Board of Education meetings and hearings are placed in the North Platte Telegraph and the North Platte Bulletin. The agenda is available online at www.nppsd.org 4 days prior to each regular meeting of the North Platte Board of Education. Sheila, can we get roll call?
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Skip Altick.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Lund-Green. Aye.
All right, motion passes. At this time, I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
I move to approve the agenda for the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
Second.
Roll call.
Skip Altick.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Lund-Green. Aye. Emily Garrick.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do have just a couple of announcements real quick tonight before we go into our communications portion. So for those of you who may have been here for our committee of the whole meeting or followed that agenda in our minutes there, we do have a couple of policies that we have pulled from tonight's agenda just to be able to allow a little bit more time for further discussion. So one of those is 3024 and another one is 3026. So I just wanted to make a note of that those are not on tonight's agenda, but we'll be back next month. In addition to that, I also wanted to make an announcement that our next committee of the whole meeting, which is typically a non-voting meeting, will actually require us to take a couple of votes on things due to timing of legislature and bringing on a new director of finance. So we just wanted to make sure that we put that announcement out there so everyone is aware there are a couple items we will take action on at our next committee of the whole meeting. Okay, on to our communications portion of this evening, which is short and sweet. We will welcome Terry Burchell for the foundation report and staff recognitions.
Good evening. I think I'm on. No staff recognitions this evening, but the foundation would like to thank Stuart for all of his work with the foundation throughout the years. We appreciate you very much and hope you enjoy your retirement and the grandkiddos. So thank you. Just to update you with everything, current activities and upcoming events, the summer fun enrichment classes that we've worked with the district on, the kindergarten through second grade are completely sold out, those classes. And we still have classes available for grades 3 through 12. So you'll see lots of social media advertising that. So if you see that, feel free to share that out for us so we can get the rest of those filled up, including Chromie's cribbage class. So for middle school students and high school students. So families can register, of course, at the npppsf.org website. Just click on the Summer Fun tab. And then, of course, a reminder for the Bulldog Weekend, July 25th and 26th. Preparation is in full swing. We've had some great auction items donated. We've got great sponsors. So I hope you all can make that July 25th at venue 304, celebrating 3 amazing distinguished alumni. We'll also include a fund and need opportunities with a few specific needs in some buildings that we know about. And then, of course, Saturday morning, we get up and we go play golf at the Bulldog Golf Classic at Lake Maloney. Those are for 4-person teams. Registration is out on our website as well. This event is 50% goes back to the Booster Club and then helps the foundation. So we're very excited always about that event. And this is our 5th year for that event. So it'll be great celebration. And then strategic planning update. The foundation board recently completed a strategic planning session. I'd like to have a sincere thank you to Dr. Rhodes and Mr. Altig for attending that and helping us with those conversations so that we can better align our strategic plan with the district strategic plan and serve the students just as you are doing as well. So it was a great conversation. So be watching for some updates there. Otherwise, we just continue working together and appreciate the things that the district does for the students. Any questions?
Thank
All
you,
right.
Terry.
Thank you,
you.
Terry.
All right, at this time, we have our public comment portion of tonight. Public questions and comments may take place at this time in the agenda. Individuals who want to address the board must complete a guidelines for public comments form with the date, topic addressing, name, address, and the name of any organization you represent, and give it to the board clerk prior to the meeting. Sheila, do we have any?
I have none.
Okay. Our consent agenda. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call. Oh, excuse me, sorry. We're going to discuss first. Got ahead of myself there. On tonight's consent agenda, which is also known by Robert's Rules of Order as a consent calendar, groups routine meeting discussion points into a single agenda item. In so doing, the grouped items can be approved in one action rather than through the filing of multiple motions. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. On tonight's consent agenda, we have 9.1 to approve the minutes of the May 12th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education. 9.2 to approve the minutes of the May 29th, 2025 Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting. And I do want to note this is a second draft of those minutes that was sent back out with a few changes by the recommendation of Ms. Blasey. 9.3, approve the minutes of the June 5th, 2025 budget workshop. 9.4, accept the resignation of Rhonda Larson effective May 30th of 2025. 9.5, approve the teaching contract of Rosara Contreras effective for the 2025-2026 school year. 9.6, approve the teaching contract of Amy Hare effective for the 2025-2026 school year. 9.7, approve the teaching contract of Chris Bertswinger for the 2025-2026 school year. And 9.8, the approval of financial claims and reports, which this month we had Cindy O'Connor and Angela Blasey to review those. Angela, what is your recommendation on those financial claims and reports?
To approve the financial claims.
Okay. Is there any discussion or questions that need answered prior to voting on this? All right, roll call.
Skip Altig.
Aye.
Angela Blasey.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Green. Aye. Emily Garrick.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, on to our reports and discussion items for the evening. First off, we have our attendance report with Mrs. Busher and Mrs. Butler.
Hello, everyone. We're here to talk about the super exciting attendance at North Platte Public School. earlier Maggie and I were talking about this presentation and she said it's the tale of two COVID. So prior to COVID and then after COVID. So our attendance is, we're happy to report that we're making a comeback. So we're excited about that, but no, it's okay. When we get into our first slide, that's our average daily attendance. We've compiled 10 years of attendance data. I've been compiling attendance data, gosh, for quite some time. We had a long going document and then Maggie kind of helped keep it going as far as the last 6 years. And so this week we kind of just compiled it all to give you guys a nice overview of the last 10 years.
we go.
Okay.
Sorry, y'all.
So the first slide is average daily attendance. And I want to just kind of take a note of the orange in the middle, which is the 1920 school year. So that was the year we got cut short in March. And then the 2021 school year, it looks so amazing, but it is not real. That is remote learning. So that was not counted against attendance. So we had kids remote learning. We had quarantine was counted as an exempt absence. So that year's data looks really great, but in reality, we did not have kids in school. We did, but we had very few kids in school. So our true year of really looking at attendance as we came back from COVID was the 21-22 school year. And you can see that's kind of the light blue, we took a major hit. Elementary, very much at secondary, trying to get kids back to school and trying to get parents to be good with their kids coming to school. So we felt like we'd made so many strides. We'd started Dare to Go 5 Below about 5 years before COVID. We felt like our attendance had just really gotten into a good place. And then COVID hit. As you can see, those next 2 years were really tough for us. We really couldn't do a lot of filings with the court in the 21-22 school year, even because there were so many questions still about if a family member had COVID. So we had to kind of just let those years go for attendance. And that was really hard for us because we'd worked so hard. But as we kind of move forward in the 23-24 and this year, you can see we're making a real comeback with our average daily attendance. And we're really proud of that. And that's principals, counselors, teachers, like that's a group effort from everybody working really hard. And then on the next slide, that's our Dare to Go 5 Below. And going back about 10 years now, we really challenged our families to have their kids really try to miss less than 5 days. And although perfect attendance is wonderful, we know the reality of the situation is kids are going to miss here and there, and that's okay. If we can keep it under that 5-day mark, it's really has an overall positive trend for our attendance. So as you can see, again, going into COVID, we were making some good improvements, took the hit, and now I'm happy to report that we're getting back up to the places we wanted to be. I would say that good year would be, that 2018, 2019, right around there. We'd like to kind of get back to that place. And we are, and in some cases we're above that year, which makes us really happy for seeing kids be back in school.
So another area we wanted to look at, it's great looking at the percentage of kids who are coming to school. We wanted to take a look at those who are missing, specifically students that are over 20 days absent, because those are the students that we then have to refer to the county attorney and take additional action on. And interestingly enough, we can see that looking at secondary, there's always a greater issue with attendance. And you can really see how COVID affected those years after the fact. And one thing to shout out the administration at the secondary level is they have made some great strides in the last couple of years since those rebuilding years. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that number dip under 100 for our secondary level. And then for elementary, surprisingly, we saw kids want to be in school after COVID. So we have not yet to get back up to the, that 50 number, which we like to see, and we hope it continues to decline. And then in looking at reasons for students missing school, this is for this last school year, the absent reason percentages. So it's for the whole student population, not just the students over 20. And if you're looking at the percentages, parent request is really any call-in for a student outside of medical or illness. So family trip is one that we see a lot. And then I think a positive on this chart is that our two areas of concern, the truancy and student discipline, are our lowest. And even the lowest being student discipline, which lets us know that our administration is trying to keep kids in school. They're doing the best that they can to work with the needs that students have.
And I think it's important when we look at that over 20, like if there's a student who's over the age of 18, we have no recourse for them if they're not coming to school. So we always break down that data of over 20 to see, what are suspensions or like an expulsion that's going to really bring down your data. And then who are our kids over 18 or even really getting close to 18? Because if we were to do a filing with the county attorney, by the time they'd get to court, they would be 18 and they no longer fall under compulsory ed. So that's usually when we get into that truancy number. And then that higher number of over 20, it's usually those kids that we don't have a lot of recourse for as far as legal recourse goes.
So some celebrations that we wanted to bring attention to with regards to attendance from the 22-23 school year to this past year, our average daily attendance at the high school is up 3%. All of our schools have really done a great job in addressing attendance, but we wanted to bring attention to Washington. They had 100% completion of collaborative plans, which addresses attendance with families for students who are over 20 days. They saw a 10% increase for the students who were missing less than 5 days of school. And they went from 10 students over 20 days to only 3 students over 20 days from the year prior to this year. McDonald had no students go over 20 days. And all but one of our elementaries were above 95% average daily attendance for the 24-25 school year. And truly, I wish I could have tacked on that last elementary school. They were only like 0.08 95. So our elementary schools are just rocking it. From 22 to 23 school year to this past school year, we've seen 92 fewer students go over 20 days. And from the 22-23 school year to this past school year, we've reduced our chronic federal absenteeism by 3.03%. And district-wide K-12, our average daily attendance is just under that 95% with 94.31.
And the state average last year in the state was 93%. So we were above the average in the state for average daily attendance. And then we just wanted to talk quickly about some goals. We want to make sure that we're explaining attendance at the building level, that our teachers understand the attendance data, that it's relevant to them. We talk a lot about just maybe taking the school off of the sheet, but showing them a school that's of similar size and demographics so they can see how they're doing compared to other schools and set some goals that are really valuable to them, that really mean a lot to their attendance. So that's something we're going to work on. We already have done that a little bit this year. Prioritizing collaborative plans. We know that when those meetings are held, attendance gets better. Like it's our buildings that had a lot of meetings, like attendance improved. So making sure that we help support collaborative plans and make sure that those meetings are being held. Quality collaboration with our SROs and county attorney. We are so blessed that we have a county attorney that will prosecute truancy. When I go to conferences or talk to people from other schools, they're like, nobody cares. Like we'll send something over, nobody prosecutes that. We're just lucky that our county attorney works with us. We meet with her every month to go over attendance, and she's so supportive of making sure that we are getting kids to school and we're holding people accountable if they're not. So, and then we talked about comparing our proficiency levels with our attendance data to see where we're at in those places, if our attendance improvements are aligning with our proficiency. So those are, yeah, that's kind of our report. We're really proud of the data, but it's really at the building level, our principals, our counselors, everybody's working hard to make sure kids are coming to school, and it is a priority. So we're happy that they're making that a priority as well.
And we've showed some district level information today. We do break it down by building and share that out with them as well. So they're able to kind of gear their buildings towards their needs.
Any questions?
Not really a question, just well, I do have a question, actually. Have you guys had any conversations with any of the medical professionals in our area about having later office hours on like 1 or 2 days a week, or, you know, those types of things, so we don't have to necessarily, I mean, I realize that pulling kids for medical appointments, if they're documented, that we don't count that against their attendance, but have there been conversations like that so that we can, you know, maybe try to avoid having kids out of
We
school?
haven't, but it's a good idea. And the conversations we have had with some of our counselors is that they're welcome to come into our school to have counseling sessions there, and we provide a safe space for them. That's one area we saw that kids were missing, kind of maybe like a little bit extra time, like they'd have a counseling appointment, then maybe go get lunch, and like what would be maybe 1 hour would bleed into like 2. So we have worked with our counselors to let them know they're welcome in our building. And then kids aren't marked absent at all. But that's a good idea to talk to providers about evening hours. I know one family practice does evening hours on, I think, Thursday nights, but it's a good conversation to have.
And then just the other was a comment. I have noticed a lot of the principals mentioning how they've been working a lot with families this year to get those medically excused absences, you know, turned in so that they can be documented. And I know there's been a lot of communication going home from all levels, I think, about those types of things. And so I think it's nice that we can have cleaner data so that we really know why our kids are missing when they are missing. So
It's really helpful for us to just to not have to filter through who we need to be concerned with, kind of be like, okay, we don't need to worry about this section here. Here's kind of our priority, because before we had to really filter through that to kind of make those decisions. So
I had a question kind of in regards to some of the changes we've made to our academic calendar over the last few years. Are we seeing any correlation? You know, obviously the largest reason that students are missing is due to parent request. And so that kind of leads me to wonder, is our new structure of academic calendar helping attendance? Is it hurting attendance? You know, is that making it difficult if parents do want to take a trip and there's a need for a 3-day weekend? You know, are you seeing any correlation between those calendar changes and attendance?
I think there could be a little correlation there with that improved attendance. I think we're still, you know, we're battling just kind of in general. Sometimes it's just not important, you know, like, well, our trip's more important. And so that's kind of a battle I think that we're going to continue to fight. But we've seen an increase in our attendance this year. I think it probably is a combination of multiple things, but that definitely could help to have a little bit more time for some of those breaks, to plan it around some of those scheduled breaks. We definitely see with some of our kids who have a lot of anxiety, they struggle after a big break. So getting kids back after Christmas break, we will often have to go knock on doors. The start of school, we'll spend that first week knocking on doors. There's some kids like just really struggle to come back from summer. So we do see that as an issue sometimes with like a big long break and getting kids to kind of get back into the routine. But
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for them?
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much. All right, Mrs. Douglas will now join us for the early childhood report for the 2024-2025 school year.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna specifically talk this evening about. Why am I echoing? Turn my volume on. This one? Oh. Okay. Well, do you want to share?
I could.
Oh, here, right there. There we
Thank
go. Ready? Okay, so I'm going to talk specifically about preschool programming and then early childhood in regards to kindergarten through third graders and the Reading Improvement Act. Okay, so first off, just a little bit about our bullpup preschool staff. In 23-24, we had 8 teachers, 24-25, 7, 25-26, we will have 6 preschool teachers. And my next slide is enrollment, so you'll kind of see that trend and why that is. We do have 19 paraprofessionals in the 24-25 school year. That does seem high, but I'll talk a little bit about that later too. We have 2 paraprofessionals in every classroom. One is special education and then one is just a classroom preschool para. A halftime music teacher, a special education teacher, and then the occupational therapist, physical therapist, speech language pathologist, they serve the district, but then also they're part of the Buffalo staff, a school secretary, and then 1 Sodexo lunch staff. Okay, here's our enrollment. We went it's kind of like a bell curve right now. The last couple of years, we have declined a little bit. 24-25 school year, we had 126 students, and that was our capacity for the school year. Right now for 25-26, we're at 123. So we have 3 open spots. Those are all in the afternoon half-day program. And then usually the last couple of years, we've had no problem getting people that are in the wait list. Eventually, like when school starts, some people move. And so that's kind of been the sweet spot with that number right now is the 126 capacity. The demographics are a little bit different for preschool. These are the demographics that we report to NDE for early childhood. That's our free and reduced lunch count, our special education count, EL learners count, low birth weight premature, and how many teen parents or non-graduates of our preschool students. So the data collection that we use is called Teaching Strategies Gold. The data that I'm showing you is just in regards to our preschool classrooms. We do collect data for our special education students that we serve in private preschools, but for this purpose, I am going to show you just our preschool programs. That does include the Washington and Jefferson classrooms. So this is the fall proficiency rates versus the spring. So we have really good growth in every category. And as you look at that, I'll kind of share with you what items we assess in each category. So the social emotional, that's taking care of their own needs, eating, dressing themselves, forming relationship with peers and others, and just solving some basic social problems. Physical, they assess their balance, their fine motor skills, using their fingers and hands, early writing skills, holding a pencil, kicking a ball, things like that. Language is reciprocal language as well as communicating, comprehending following directions, just speaking really clearly, engaging in conversations, and just using the basic social rules of language. Cognitive scores come from just how well they attend and engage, how curious and motivated they are, how interested in school. Literacy is just early knowledge of the alphabet, letters, and then the sounds that they make. Also responding to books and starting to write their name. Mathematics is counting, recognizing numbers, shapes, early math skills like that. So as we prepare our youngest learners for kindergarten, our focus extends beyond just academics. As you can see, it's really support for the development of the whole child. These are some Rule 11 requirements, and I just wanted to bring these to your attention just because they are different for early childhood than they are for kindergarten through 12th grade. So some of the requirements that are different is that we have a monthly advisory committee that's called our planning region team. That we have to have a program coordinator with early childhood education hours. Our program has to serve students at least 450 instructional hours per year. Our halftime program just meets that requirement, then our full day has about close to 1,000. Each teacher or each student has to receive 2 home visits per year. So instead of parent-teacher conferences where they come to the school, we go to them. Our certified staff have to have an early childhood endorsement. Paraeducators also have to have certain requirements. They have to have at least 12 semester hours of early childhood education or the equivalent in prior training or experiences. So we do a little bit more training with our paraeducators for early childhood than we do in K-12. We have to hold a 1-to-10 ratio in each classroom. The maximum size is 20 students per class. So that ratio is with educators and teachers. And then all staff have to be certified, and well, not all staff, at least one in each classroom has to be CPR and first aid certified. So they have additional training at the beginning of the year to prepare for as well. Just some highlights of preschool. I really think the highlights are when you go in the classroom. The teachers are amazing, and it's incredible just to go in there and watch how they teach our youngest learners. But they really love some of the field trips they go to, the dusty trails, the fire station. This year, the bottom picture is they took a virtual field trip to the zoo, and that was pretty exciting. So sometimes it takes a lot of coordination and effort to take students off campus. So if we can bring learning experiences to them, that's also pretty great. Okay, so then the Reading Improvement Act, which is the legislation LB 1081 that passed a few years ago. Just briefly, we use the DIBELS assessment. It goes along with our reading curriculum. We assess 3 times yearly, fall, winter, and spring. This assessment, it's important to note that it's just really short. It's 5 minutes in length. We have our title teachers and our facilitators. They go to a building for about a half a day or a day, and they just pull students one by one. It's an individual assessment. The reason I bring that up is because it doesn't take away from the learning that's happening, and we don't disrupt with an hour-long test. So it's good in that fashion. Students who don't meet the performance thresholds, they're identified through that data, and then we support them by each student has an individual reading improvement plan. So we list kind of what we're going to do because they did not meet that threshold. And then we communicate with parents right away at the fall if they don't meet the threshold, and then we update them at fall parent-teacher conferences and then in the spring as well. If they remain on an individual reading improvement plan still in the spring, then we invite them to our our extended learning opportunity program or our summer school program. And this is pretty exciting data. So in the 23-24 school year, at the beginning of the year, so in the fall, we had 298 students qualify for IRIPS, which was about 29% of our students. At the beginning of this last school year in the fall, we had 243. So that went down from 29 to 23%. So we're making some good gains, trending in the right direction. And then you can see by schools kind of how we trended as well. And then another way to look at that data is how we did in the fall compared to how we ended the school year in the spring. So we, about over half of our students exited an individualized reading improvement plan. So we're down to 11% at the spring. So that's exciting. Still some room to grow, but definitely trending in the right direction. And then since I did highlights of preschool, I thought I'd throw in some highlights of kindergarten through 3rd grade literacy. they really do a great job in our elementary of integrating experiences. A lot of our reading curriculum has science topics and social studies topics, so they do a really good job, our teachers do, of engaging students. Our first grade students and our third grade students go to the planetarium, and that goes right along with their reading series and their science series too. So Mrs. Stump there, you'll see her any given day in character or her uniform. So just some fun things that are happening in our elementary schools as well. All right. Any questions?
So I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. All of our preschools will be located at Buffalo next
Yes.
year.
Yes.
Correct.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
No, but I love this data.
Yeah, it's excellent. Truly is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. All right, our monthly financial and budget report from Mr. Simpson. Last one.
Okay, I was hoping my voice would come back here.
It's okay.
First of all, thank you very much for Travis for sending me the pictures. If you don't understand, I do love cows. My dad worked at the Livestock Alliance, and so I've been around them forever. So it was a sort of the end of my era, so to speak, and so I had to present what I really do love. And then when I was showing them to somebody, they also said, I'm off to greener pastures. There we go. So if we look at page 2, this just gives you a summary of all of our funds that we operate. On the front cover, it talks about that we should be at 75%. Now, some of them, like the QC Puff, we paid off the bonds, so there really shouldn't be anything left there. Some of the other ones we do, like in the nutrition fund, have so much money budgeted. We need that budget authority, but we probably won't spend it all. For example, we'll be at 86%. We'll have a little bit from summer lunch and breakfast, but other than that, it won't be as large as the school year. So just wanted to clarify a couple of things as you're taking a look at that one. The exciting news is on page 4, as we look at our statement of net assets across the district, number 1, you can see that we have now increased by 2.3 million in our general fund compared to previous years. Second of all, as you look at our bills overall, those are trending down like they did last month. We've just had some bills this month coming in for parent transportation and a few other ones. So, but a positive sign that we are starting to trend down on extra bills. So then when we look at our chart here, over the course of the last 5 years, the change in revenue to expense for our general fund, we can see now that in May, because we have reduced our bills, we're in a positive situation. I also want to say too that we received funding for property tax relief from the state in March and May. So that has helped also. And then finally, you have multiple pages out there of our activity fund. And I just want to take you through just sort of the breakdown. And normally you would see if you went and looked at the monthly financial report, you'll see all the funds together. But I took this one and broke it down for the last meeting here. I just wanted to show we've concluded the school year with all of our activities. So you can, and I've made some transfers for our activity fund based upon either what we've said in budget or I'll mention a couple other items as we go through there. So this is all of our athletic items that we transfer money into support our student travel or other refs across the district. The second page is sort of other areas that we oversee, our activity office, our concession stand, and our coaches association. I do want to mention in our activity office, we pay out per the negotiated agreement, people working our activities. And every year, based upon that number, I transfer money in to offset that. And the only reason I transfer money in is that I want to show the board how much money we spend on salaries and benefits for staff members working those activities. So. Then the next one is all of our fundraisers that we have across the board, from our activities, our athletic activities, to our other activities such as speech, Circle of Friends, and our Booster Club. The next one then is all of our middle school items that go forward. And this one's just sort of consolidated because they really do have just either fundraisers or a limited number of activities going on at our middle school. Then the next page, on page 14, these are all of our high school activities that we have that go on yearly, whether it's our cheerleaders, our musical, or National Honor Society. You can go through there and look and see what they generate. And our fee support, the bottom one, is just goes to support these activities as they do travel around the state. For example, our cheerleaders go to state, or our Pacers go to state, or what I want to say, Skills USA. So we do have those that are attending state competitions, and we cover those costs within the fee support.
Can you pause real quick, just so I don't forget to come back to this? Can you kind of explain what that process looks like? Because I noticed there are some of those, you know, as we look at end balances, like that page, cheerleading, for example, but there are examples before that that show pretty significantly a negative number. Can you talk to us about, like, when we see that, what that kind of means, how we address that kind of thing?
Yeah, so first of all, if we go back probably to the main page, if we look at our athletics, we have a negative balance of 44,000. We can do one of two things. We can transfer some additional dollars in from the general fund to help offset it, or we work with our activities director. Now, this year we've had to transfer less dollars in to offset the negatives that go on. But this year we had less requirements from ordering, what I want to say, uniforms, as well as some of our activities were local, so we generated additional revenue. So, you know, over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll work with our activity director on addressing the negative. When you look at some of the other ones, for example, you mentioned cheerleaders. That's where they start with, but they do multiple fundraisers, as well as parents provide, whether they do the fundraiser or they just write the check and offset it. So then over the course of the next 3 months, that negative will now start dropping back down to a positive, as you can see, $3,187. The other one that was probably the big one in the past, and Corey really worked diligently with a couple of sponsors, was our journalism. And that one was in the hole, and then they worked over the course of the next couple of last year and the previous year to bring that back out of the red. So yes, we do. Each individual school works diligently on addressing if we do have an issue that we need to bring them back out. And fundraising, if they are negative, Aaron already works with those sponsors to address how they're going to bring it back out of the red.
Thank you.
Then we have fee classes within the high school, such as, and you can see here, the Bulldogger is in the red, and Corey knows about that. He's working on getting that taken care of. But we generate fees from various courses across the district, whether it's dual credit, art, drafting, woods, and so forth. And these are non-core classes that generate some fees in support of their program. And the money that we get and parents are billed through Infinite Campus. They can pay online or write the check at the activity office, but for the most part, every month, we have a report from Infinite Campus that we balance, put the money into these various programs to help generate the revenue that is needed for each individual area. And then then we have elementary and just a myriad of little other items such as kids club, sixpence, and so forth. But you can see all of our elementaries and what they have and where they stand financially. Our building principals, especially at the elementary, are cognizant, worked with their PTOs in regards to items that they want to do at the school. PTOs will step up and help support a portion of that. And then finally, the last one is just sort of district-wide items that go on, such as rentals of buildings. We have those across the district. Our bus van depreciation, that's separate from our depreciation fund for that. That was just they used to charge various activities. Skip knows that, to rent our buses, and we stopped doing that, but we had residual dollars in there, so that we've held on to. Tuition waivers, that's where we come in with our student fee fund, so to speak. Then you have other items that we've dealt with.
I have another question. If we
Yep.
back up just a page, just so I make sure everyone knows the data that we're looking at. I assume these numbers do not include grant funding and expenditures. Is that correct?
That's correct. Grant funding for any of the buildings should run through the general fund, where we have specific revenue codes and expenditure codes that we have to record grants in there. So yes.
Okay, perfect. I figured as much. I noted like the kids club line there. We know that their expenditures are higher than
Yeah.
that, but I assume those are documented on.
And on this one, the kids club one, that was some additional revenue that they had generated either from they were planning to go to Africa to take textbooks over, and they got a lot of support in that. A portion of that, just they sent the dollars off to their Carrie's generated some other dollars across the district in support of Kids Club, and that money can go into the activity fund. So it was not grant generated. Any other? I just saw it and I wanted to make a note. Chromebook insurance. So Brian talked about last week on our technology, and parents can pay the district $10, and then they have Chromebook insurance, no different than we do when we buy insurance for our buildings. You can see there that anytime we have a damage to a Chromebook, the tech department pays money out of there in support of those dollars. Any other questions? I want to say thank you very much when my daughters are doing a year-end celebration for me. 16 and a half years at Alliance, 19 and a half. So it's 19 and a half years I've been here in North Platte. So thank you very much for everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay. I was just going to make a note here before we move on to our legislative update. As it is budget related, the board did hold a budget workshop, and a very preliminary budget was presented to the board at that. And there were some recommendations and some questions. So that conversation was kind of left at that draft of a budget would kind of be our median draft, and that we may see a draft on either end of that for further discussion. So that will come back at this time. We're planning for that to come back at the next committee of the whole meeting as really our primary discussion at that meeting. And if it warrants another workshop or something of that sort, we may schedule something. So that is our update as far as budget goes for next year. Any additional discussion or questions on here for Stuart? I don't feel like we should let him off quite so easy for his last meeting. Okay, thank you. All right, for our legislative update this evening, Skip, do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Well, the
Should
legislature
phrase that.
did dismiss on the day 89 instead of going the full 90. And they passed a ton of bills that day. And the governor had said he was not going to veto any of them, so they're finished. Still waiting on NASB and KSB to go through all the things that got passed and how that is going to affect schools. I thought it might be out by now, but I think there's so much that they have to wade through on what got passed and what got pushed out of bills, put into other bills, that will be coming out. And probably, I would say in July, we'll have a much clearer picture of the things that they passed and how that is going to affect us specifically in certain areas. That's it.
Stuart or Dr. Rhodes, did you have anything else you wanted to add on legislative update?
KSB did recently come out with their policy updates, and a variety of those came from the legislative session. I would say there's probably 12 to 15 policies that will need, there will have required revisions. I think what we have heard that is somewhat interesting from our association, Nebraska Council of School Administrators, is they are anticipating probably a special session. And so we'll just kind of keep our ears open on that and see where we end up. But I think, yeah, I think they're still kind of meshing through some of these laws that have been signed. So we'll keep you updated as we go through.
Thank you. Okay, for our action items tonight, all of these that you are going to see are policy related. And just as a reminder, as mentioned before, policies 3024, our booster club and parent organization policy, and then policy 3026, our handbook policy, were originally slated to be on this agenda. They will come back next month, so there's further time to review those. So the first one that we have, I would entertain a motion at this time to approve revisions to policy 3028, our policy on sex offenders.
Second.
Okay, at this time, we'll open it up for discussion. Just to note on here, the recommended change on this policy is simply removing a portion of the policy that was previously in there and updating it to more accurately reflect how Nebraska State Patrol handles these issues and really what's required of us as a district by state law. Is there any further discussion or questions on this policy? And I do want to clarify, we have discussed all of these policies really pretty at length in our last meeting. So we're just going to kind of summarize. And if there are additional questions or revisions that come up tonight, I want the board to know. I welcome any further discussion, but I also want the public to know that we have discussed these pretty thoroughly as already. So at this time, Sheila, can we get roll call?
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson. Joanne Lynn Green. Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Skip Altuck.
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, I would entertain a motion to to approve the revisions to policy 3029, distribution of flyers, advertising non-school organization activities.
I'll make a motion to approve the revision to policy 3029, distribution of flyers, advertising non-school organization activities.
Okay, and a note here on this one, the update on here was from the recommendation of Mrs. Longreen to basically include a reference to our community links section on our website and some other materials there to update our public on non-school activities. Is there any further discussion or questions on this policy? Okay, roll call.
Justin Thompson. Joanne Lynn Green. Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Skip Altuck.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the revisions to policy 3030, automatic external defibrillator program.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to policy 3030, automatic external defibrillator program.
Second.
And this one, the only change that is being made here is to update it to remove Stuart Simpson's name specifically and instead include the position title there so that we are more accurate as Stuart is leaving. So you'll consult on this particular policy for us? Yeah. Any further discussion or questions on this policy? All right, roll call.
Joanne Green.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Skip Altick.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Motion passes. 11.4 at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the revisions to policy 3036, purchasing credit card program.
Motion to approve the revisions to policy 3036, purchasing credit card program.
Second.
Okay, this policy was updated to include some more specifics on the board receiving the list of P card holders. There was mention in there that the board had the authority to basically suspend or to grant approval to purchase card holders, but there wasn't really a formal process in how we review that information. So that was added in there. KSB also had a recommendation for us to be a little bit more specific and remove the language of if requesting reimbursement to better reflect our needs as a district. And we require receipts regardless of if they're requesting reimbursement. Is there any further discussion or questions on this policy?
Yes. I am truly opposed to that the superintendent provides us a list of people who have credit cards. I know that it says we can revoke, but that would become on the recommendation of superintendent administrators. You know, when we start getting into the weeds of finding out who has what, that is an area that I don't believe we need to be involved in at all. I think it's overreach. It's really micromanaging that we're going to have a list of who has purchases. Principals, the central office, the finance particularly knows who those people are. And I don't think we need to start doing that. And if we do this, then we could start coming back on other policies and stating, well, we should know this and this and this. So I didn't say anything at the other meeting because I wanted to look into this a little more before I did. But, you know, I really think the idea of micromanaging really comes in here. And, you know, in our board of ethics, number 11 says we are not to micromanage the district. And I think this kind of fits right in there. So I'm opposed to that, of us receiving a list of people who have those.
Thank you for sharing that, Skip. Is there any other discussion or questions on this policy? I do think this warrants good discussion. So I appreciate you bringing that concern, Skip, and I would welcome any thoughts from other board members.
Dr. Rhodes, can you just tell us if this is a practice that you've seen in other districts, or is this something that would be exclusive to us, or?
Yeah, I probably can't answer that. In my own experiences, I can't say as this was a part of the policies I worked with. But I think the thing maybe to keep in mind a little bit is the size of those districts were quite a bit smaller than North Platte Public Schools as well. So and I am not privy to what other districts our size do as it relates to P cards and sharing that information, but it's certainly information that we could survey like schools and see what their practices are.
I think I would like to submit a revised motion that we table this and give our administration some time to look into it and just gather some more data so that, you know, we can see if our practices would be in line with what other districts do, or if it's something that, you know, if just would like to have some further discussion on it rather than act on it tonight. So I would like to move that we table this for further discussion.
Second.
Okay, Sheila, we'll take roll call on the item of tabling this discussion.
Emily Garrick,
Aye.
Skip Altick,
Aye.
Angela Blazy,
Nay.
Justin Thompson,
Aye.
Jenlyn Green.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We will bring that up next month when we bring the other policies back for discussion and action. And I would welcome in the meantime, Dr. Rhodes, if you do want to do some looking into what other districts do. I think that
Yeah,
information would be
we'll
great.
reach out to array schools and like-size schools and see what they're doing.
Okay,
Can I ask a question on that one still? Or no?
probably better wait till
Okay.
next meeting. If it's a question that you could email, like if in regards to information, you could share email so that we have the information gathered. Okay. Our next policy that we will be looking at, 11.5, policy 3047. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve revisions to policy 3047, data breach response.
Motion to approve revisions to policy number 3047.
Second.
Okay, and the note on here, the addition to this policy was to add a portion about approved vendors and contractors. And this is also a requirement of our insurance from my understanding. So, and this comes by recommendation of KSB. Any further discussion or questions on this policy? Roll call, Sheila?
Skip Altick,
Aye.
Angela Blazy,
Aye.
Justin Thompson,
Aye.
Jenlyn Green,
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, 11.6, I would now entertain a motion to approve revisions to policy 3052, leasing personal property.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to policy 3052, leasing personal property.
Second.
The change on this one is just placing a specific dollar amount in this policy where essentially before, I think there was either a dash or a question mark. So just putting specific information in here. Is there any discussion or questions on this policy?
No, I like that we have a number in there and not just a to be determined.
Yeah, I think anytime we can make a specific,
Yeah.
a recommendation of a specific dollar amount, that is much better. Agreed. All right, Sheila, roll call.
Skip Altick,
Aye.
Angela Blazy,
Aye.
Justin Thompson,
Aye.
Jenlyn Green,
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye. Motion passes. 11.7, I would now entertain a motion to approve revisions to policy 3053, non-discrimination.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to policy 3053, non-discrimination.
Second.
This policy, our updates here really are just to cross-reference the other policies that kind of partner with this. There had been some questions right before our discussion of this policy about where to find information and some questions from the public. And so really just clearing that up. So if they are looking for something or they feel that they've been discriminated against, they know exactly where to go and how to handle that situation. So that was the clarification and the change here. Is there any further discussion or questions on this policy? Okay, Sheila, roll call.
Angela Blazy,
Aye.
Justin Thompson,
Aye.
Jenlyn Green,
Aye.
Emily Garrick,
Aye.
Skip Altick.
Aye.
Motion passes. 11.8, at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve revisions to policy 3057, our Title IX policy.
I request approval of revisions to policy 3057, Title IX policy.
Second.
Okay, and on this one, I'm going to defer a little bit to Dr. Rhodes as far as the history on this policy and why we are making the changes now versus a few years ago.
So if you remember, this actually is the 2020 version of federal Title IX that was during the first Trump term. And then in 2024, the Biden administration came out with new rules and regs, but those had not gone to the Supreme Court, or they had not worked their way up through the chain of command as it relates to trial law. So we were told in 24 just to hold tight where we were at with policy. and keep what we had from that 2020 policy. Since then, KSB has gone through, and I think all school legal consultants have gone through, and they've kind of trimmed some of Title IX a little bit. But this is certainly the 2020 version that we think the Trump administration is still very much in favor of. And so it's a little bit of a condensed version from what we previously have, but it is required by federal law.
So exactly what was changed on it? I'm just looking through, I'm not seeing.
They took some of the narratives out. They left in the separation and segregation of duties. That was a big piece of the 2020 legislation, is you had to have one person that was the investigator when there was a Title IX concern or complaint brought. You needed a decision maker, you needed an appellate decision maker. So those are all listed in here, and they've just kind of, if you look at the definitions, they've shortened those definitions up a little bit compared to what the old policy was. The content is exactly the same as the old policy, and the requirements for our school district are the same.
Okay, any further discussion or questions on this? All right, Sheila, roll call.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Lynn Green.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye,
Skip Alter.
Aye.
Angela Blaze.
Aye.
motion passes. 11.9, at this time, I would entertain approval of revisions to policy 3058, naming school facilities and property.
I make a motion to approve the revision to policy 3058, naming schools facilities. Property.
Okay, nope, that's okay. That motion, I'm gonna have you restate that. We have a typo in
Oh.
here. The motion should just be to approve the policy 3058. There are no revisions because it did not exist before.
Oh, true. Yes. Please approve the policy 3058, naming school facilities and properties.
Second.
Okay, we'll open this one up for discussion. This one, I think, did this come from you, Joanne, as an idea and a recommendation? Do you want to share a little bit more of your thoughts behind that?
Not sure that I have a whole lot.
I think
other
they're
than-
self-explanatory, but I
Yeah,
think it's great. So
Yeah,
if you want to share.
I think part of it too is just as we've had conversations about donors and those types of things, that if we were to ever have a large donation and tied to that donation, someone wanted the facility named something specific, just that we had something in policy so that if those circumstances arise, or as Dr. Rhodes, I think, mentioned at our committee of the whole meeting, when our district grows and we have to build new facilities and there are things where we're having to name those facilities, then it gives more authority to the board to be able to have kind of the final say in what's happening there. So I think it's just good to have it in policy so that, you know, looking down the road a bit, that we're prepared for whatever may happen in the future. So.
I think that's wise. I really do. Yeah.
Just to clarify, there are no plans to build any facilities, but we want to have something in place rather than being reactive. We'd rather be proactive in a situation of this nature. I think this is a good policy recommendation. Is there any further discussion or questions on it? Okay, Sheila, roll call.
Joanne Lynn Green.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye,
Skip Alter.
Aye.
Angela Blaze.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
motion passes. Okay, the big one for the evening, 11.10. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve revisions to policy 6025, student cell phone and other electronic devices.
I'll
So-
make a motion. Oh, sorry.
Second. I'll second it.
Okay, so let's open this one up for discussion. I know, Skip, you had a couple of questions at our committee of the whole about specifics that had been taken out of that original draft. Did you feel like your
Yeah,
questions and
all my
concerns were-
questions were answered, and then talking about staff, Dr. Rhodes in his explanation of what the various schools were looking into and going to do. Yeah, that alleviated my concerns at this time. about it. But the other thing that I really want to make certain is we have no choice in getting a cell phone policy. That was passed by the legislature, LB 140, correct? And it states exactly that if schools do not have a cell phone policy, then you will have to follow word for word the state statute. This does give us some little bit of leeway, but cell phones are not to be used by students during school day, period. And so we're being a little more proactive. I think some schools are trying to very quickly right now put a policy together, because I don't know why they didn't think it would pass, but they did. And those schools who have implemented them, like Ashland, Greenwood, Grand Island, who have had those in place, they're in good shape because they have had one in place. Grand Island, a year and a half, Ashland, Greenwood this past year. So, it is something we have to do. And from the people that have talked to me in the last week, it's about time, basically, is what they said. And they have students in school. So
I do have a question that it didn't occur to me until now, and it may seem a little silly, but it does say other electronic devices. So, I mean, obviously, we're exempting Chromebooks from that, even though they could fall into that category. So,
Yeah, I think the intent of that, the other electronic devices is to kind of have that blanket with whatever new technology might come out. I know they do list AirPods on there, and we know that we have smartwatches. So there's a lot of technology that kids have that would fall under this policy and electronic devices. But remember, Chromebooks are, those are a school technology tool that are given by the district. And so their use is should be much different than what a personal electronic device would be.
the other thing that I'm interested to see is next January, how some of the legislators are going to introduce some things to try to amend this in certain ways. I'm about certain that will happen. What they are yet, I have no idea. But I am certain that there are people that will be talking to them. So as I said at the committee of a whole, this is new for everybody, and it's going to take us a while to get used to how this works, the kids, the students, the teachers, staff, everybody. So, but it is something we must do, period.
Any other discussion on this? Or anybody else have anything that they've had questions or concerns brought to them from the public on this since we met last?
I've had a lot of parents reach out worried about being able to get a hold of their children during the school day. And I'm older, so there were numerous times that I called my mom from the office phone, and that will still be allowed. But also I've heard questions about if there's a shooting or anything like that. And it is definitely understandable. We live in scary times, but at the same time, if there is an emergency going on, the last thing you want is your child's phone ringing. So just kind of remember that. This is also a safety thing.
Or 50 parents showing up
Yeah.
all at
exactly.
the same time. Yeah.
So there is a thing of cell phone towers not working when too many people are using them. We see that during Nebraska land days. And so it can happen during issues too. So this is for their safety. I think that's how what the legislature is thinking.
Anything you want to add, Mr. Thompson?
I think when for everybody to talk about school safety, when we overwhelm our 911 system with phone calls, it delays out the response of your first responders. So by eliminating this, hopefully this improves their response as well.
Good point.
Great perspective. Thank you. And I just wanted to add on here too, that I think, to Skip's point about there are districts out there that are being very reactive and last minute kind of trying to throw something together. This is something that's been on our radar and a topic of conversation for a pretty long period of time right now. And I also do think we owe a little bit of a thank you to our media partners also, because they've done a great job of getting this information out to the public in numerous articles and in numerous ways. And I think, I mean, the reality is we don't really have a choice in this situation. This is mandated to us by the state. But on the flip side of that, in order for this to be successful, we do need to have buy-in from our parents, from our staff, from our students. And if we are a district that's making data-informed decisions, this is a decision that's wise, not just because it's coming from the state, but because the data really does show that students using cell phones in schools negatively impacts their academic performance and their mental health. I mean, there's study after study after study. A quick Google search and you will go down a rabbit hole of like hours of reading. So I just really would encourage people to, I understand it's stressful. And if you have a child who struggles with anxiety or different things, you know, I understand that this may seem like it's going to hinder their ability to focus or accomplish things in school, but really to kind of look at the positives and the good outcomes that could come from this, and to really, you know, I'm hoping that the district, our staff, our parents, our students can all really partner, and that in the end, this will be a great thing for our students. So that's kind of my take on it. Anything else? Any other questions before we take?
Now, it just, if you read The Anxious Generation, and that's actually where Governor Pillen got this when he got hurt on the horse and was in the hospital, and read it. And after I found that out, I got it and I have read it, and yeah, what you said about anxiety, mental health truly is affected by that in that book. It really turned my head on several things about, I'm not going to say damage, but the influence that the electronic devices really cause on especially 12 to 16, 17-year-olds. It's really drastic.
Now the review date on this says March 29th. Shouldn't it say May 29th?
Mhm. Good spot.
And I think it's worth noting on all that, like, this took out what we talked about, the plans for students that have about those exemptions are still there for parents that are very concerned. Our diabetics, our students use that for medical monitoring, that's still there. Not in clearly written here, the parents need to be aware of that. There's still exemptions, so their students get the medical tests.
And if the IEP
As it-
calls for
Yeah.
that,
It fits into their
Yeah,
NPPS or 504.
they're the ones.
right?
Okay. Great discussion. Thank you, guys. I will call for a vote.
Emily Garrick,
Aye.
Skip Baltic.
Aye.
Angela Blazy,
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Jen Green.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, looking ahead at our future board calendar, a couple of things on here. Angela will be on the radio tomorrow. Thank you, Angela. I have taken the July slot and we traded those. Myself, Cindy, and Joanne will be attending the school law conference later this week, so you can expect an update on us or from us on that when we meet next. A quick note here, our next committee of the whole meeting has been moved to Cody rather than at Eisenhower, which would have been the original rotation there. That change is made simply because we have a transition of an administrator in that building, and it would be not a great time to move that meeting there. Anything you want to add on that, Dr. Ritz? Okay. One thing to note, we will be looking at revisiting our board goals at some point in the near future. So probably once we get through the bulk of budget season and all of that, now that we've got our new strategic plan in place, you can expect to see those come back up for further discussion. And then again, just to note, at our next committee of the whole meeting, that will be very heavily focused on budget, kind of a continuation of our budget workshop. But if at any point any board member feels the need to have more in-depth conversation on that, we are still in a position that we could schedule another workshop for another couple hours at some point and discuss that further. So those are on there. Looking ahead, there is a legislative lunch, some lunch and learns, and the leadership workshops coming up as offerings through NASB. So if anyone is interested in that, make sure that you get a hold of Sheila and request the form and talk to me, and I would be happy to approve board members attending those. Any questions or discussion here?
I just have a request, I guess. I'm seeing there's something NASB and KSB maybe is doing on August 7th, but I believe that's also the day that Dr. Rhodes has invited us. And then are we doing the back to school?
Yeah, I'll
earlier
get that
day
date
too?
out to you this week in the update.
So
And that August 7th is Bobby and Rebecca Harling.
That's the one.
That's what it is.
Okay, oh, that's
Yep,
what
that
that
August
is.
7th.
Okay, I just was confused where it said and Lincoln City, I guess, so.
The 7th is the back to school start, is it not for
No, that's the 8th.
the 8th?
Yep.
Okay.
That Friday morning is the welcome back, and I'll
Okay.
get you information out on that.
Okay,
And that'll be at the high school.
The 7th, that's in the evening, correct?
That's a 4 to 6 that Thursday evening.
okay.
Excellent. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Cindy, Skip Alton.
Aye.
Angela Blaze.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Green.
Aye.
Emily.
Aye.
Garrick.
Caught you off guard.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.
Okay, so too fast for me. If you're bringing me to